Okay, this is me doing a video that I did already, except I actually have this listed. I actually uploaded this video, not this one that I'm doing, but the same, different. This is a remake of of a video I made a little while ago, and I actually have it listed as unlisted. So if anybody wants to watch it, you can send me a message and I'll send you a copy of it. It's me in sort of my witness protection program mode, where basically you don't see my face. I didn't think it was a great video, at least technically, but I just kind of was talking random about something, but then I kind of got onto something, because yesterday I was watching a video, and there's this guy, I think his name is Eric Hoventh, or something like that, Hoventh. He's like this evangelical, young earth creationist person. And I just thought, here's the thing. As I've said before, and I know I've said this a zillion times, I'm not an atheist, but I'm just watching this guy, and I'm thinking, that is so silly. The things this guy was talking about was just, I couldn't believe that anybody could really think that in a modern world. I think that you can believe in God without being stupid. I'm sorry, I try not to, throw words like that around and call people stupid. And I'm not going to say that he is stupid. It's just that it's hard to believe. And in life, there are some things which are hard to believe. Maybe it's because if you grow up a certain way. See, I think that one of the things that's true is when you think about things being easy or things being difficult, it's almost as if we're measuring stuff, But it's not really like an official measurement. It's kind of like an unofficial measurement. You're kind of like, some things are easier than others. Like learning Japanese might be harder than learning Spanish for an American. It might be harder to learn Chinese than it is to learn Japanese. People think about things that way. Although everything depends on how, circumstances in which you grew up. I remember one time asking someone, like the silliest question, this woman who speaks Polish, so Polish must be really difficult to learn. And she said, well, I grew up learning it, so it's easy for me. Of course. Yeah, I'm sure it is. And English, other people who speak other languages say that English is extremely difficult. It wasn't difficult for me. But it's not difficult if you grow up from the very beginning learning things. Something that could be extremely complicated could be very easy if someone taught you at an early age. You could learn calculus. That might be a piece of cake for you. But that same person who learned calculus might have a hard time doing something that most other people do, because you weren't taught that. Maybe taking public transportation might be very difficult for you. It's not because of some genetics or some other thing. It's just a matter of what you are conditioned into. The idea that the earth is only 6,000 years old or less than 10,000 years old, to me, personally, I think that's ridiculous. I think that to deny that evolution is true is ridiculous. I just think that's the case. Now, I don't want to get into some big religious thing, because it's not really about religion. It's just about what's easy and what's difficult, and why some things are easy and some things are difficult. It's not because certain things are just intrinsically difficult. It's a matter of when you learned it, what state of mind you're in. Because when you're a kid, everything is like play and fun and everything else. So when you're that's why one of the reasons why I actually learned Spanish very easily, not because I was a kid, but because I actually made it very playful. I actually turned it into a sort of like a playing around kind of thing. And by making it fun, it was actually easy for me. And I applied that to learning Japanese and everything else. It became rather easy. When people grow up in a certain religion or certain indoctrination or certain culture or whatever, you learn things and it becomes easy for you. It becomes a piece of cake. And if it's repeated over and over again, yeah. And if you're given a lot of rewards for believing it or accepting it or thinking it, it becomes easy. And a lot of times people don't stop to think. To be, in many ways, like science. Not necessarily be a scientist, but to question what it is you believe. To actually look at it, to examine it, to just see, is it really true? This is easy for me to know. It's easy for me to remember. It's easy for me to say this. But is it really true? Is there any way I could test it? Just to see if it's true. Well, some people, if you grow up in a certain culture, you may also learn never to actually test it. Don't ever test this, because you might discover it isn't what you were taught. Maybe what you were taught really isn't true, and if that happens, then it could shatter your whole worldview. It's like living in like in a big glass building that's made of nothing but glass, and if you break one part of it, the whole building will come tumbling down. So you don't want to tamper with anything. You just don't tamper with this. Just learn it, remember it, and everything else. But I think there's a part of our brain, a part of our mind, that wants to know truth. We want to know that what we're learning really is the case. And the only way we can do that is by examining it, reflecting on it, comparing it to other things. Just because something is easy to remember and easy to recall and easy to talk about because you've gotten so used to it, that doesn't necessarily make it true. As I'm watching this evangelical guy talk, and I'm thinking, he was talking about something about the stars. He said there's so many sextillion stars and so many billions, and if the scientists are right, then that means that there's like 6,000 stars forming every second, and I'm thinking he's getting everything out of context. He doesn't understand a lot of things, but he's saying this stuff in very simplistic ways of putting it that are easy for people to sort of digest. They're nice, easy, digestible pieces of information that he's never going to really do any real research, because his whole goal is to really keep it where you don't ever tamper with what he was taught. Don't tamper with this. Just learn it and remember it and memorize it and spit it out to us so that we can give you approval for learning this thing. And I'm thinking, learn. That's why I think the real cure to a lot of things is to actually examine things, to think about it, to look at it. See, I actually don't believe, and this is one of the things, and I'm going to say this, I try not to go too much into religious stuff, but this is one of the reasons why I don't actually join a lot of atheist stuff, because I see too much of this notion that the best way to get people to change what they think is to ridicule people, and I think that's the worst way to do things. I think the best way is, if you're going to do anything, if you believe that your point is valid, then encourage people to examine things, not ridicule people, but examine. If they examine things, they can see for themselves, but learn to do that, which is something most people don't do. They become afraid to question things. I mean, not only with religious stuff, but with other things too. Question situations. You don't have to, be public and make a big deal out of it and get yourself in trouble. In some situations, you question certain things openly, you can wind up in real big trouble. But question it to yourself. See, all my life as a kid, I was always curious about things. So I would go and explore things and learn things and do research on things and even test and experiment with things. I don't get stuck in one way of thinking and just accept what's spoon-fed to me all the time and just never question it. Just, you're spoon-fed this stuff. You spit it back out to everybody, tell them stuff. They applaud you. You get rewarded and patted on the head. And so that's it. No, you got to go out and explore. That's just my thing. That's all I have to say. I mean, I know this isn't a very profound video. It's probably isn't the best video. But it's just a point that I was thinking about. Something that was just on my mind.